I'm sure everyone relates to this, but as you're growing and scaling, you run out of your own money. And if you want to keep building your portfolio, what do you need to do? You need other people's money.
Everybody wants to do real estate. The dentist, the lawyer, the teacher, the police officer, the fireman. Everybody wants to do real estate, but nobody wants to be in real estate.
I actually had this really, really disastrous moment where just 2 days before closing, half my investors flaked on me. They didn't send me that wire, and I ended up losing that deal.
Reyes on the humble show. Yeah, we all in. Yeah, we all in. So grab your boys now, cause you know we all win. Lift your hands up.
Attention real estate investors and community leaders. Raising capital can be very painful. The lawyer fees alone can range up from 20 to 30,000, maybe even more. What about all the compliance and the red tape around raising capital? And not to mention all the administrative and accounting nightmares that could present themselves as you're raising capital. Well, and this is why today I am sitting down with the co-founder of a revolutionary platform called Fractional. Fractional helps you solve all those challenges, so you definitely want to stick around for this one. Welcome back to the All In Podcast, where the truth is unedited. I am your host, Carlos Reyes, sitting across from the co-founder of Fractional, Mrs. Stella Han. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to my left side here, I got a usual suspect, my business partner of over a decade, Mr. Sal Shakir.
Hey.
Today's going to be a fun one because it's not often that we have a co-founder of something that is so revolutionary and so helpful to so many people.
And we're talking money.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in the money game. You're in the money game. And, you know, as I gotten to know you and the platform that you have built out, it's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for anybody out there that is continuously raising capital to fund different, projects, or that is, that's raising capital to run a club of other, of club members that just want to invest money and see a return in the near future, right? So you're solving a lot of problems, and it's an absolute honor to have you on today.
Excited to chat more. So glad to be here, and we're gonna make money move.
Absolutely. I love it. So talk to me about Fractional, right? When did this all come together for you? Like, what sparked this revolutionary idea?
Yeah, it was honestly just a lot of my personal experiences and trauma raising capital myself. So I have been in the real estate game for a little bit over 6 years now, and I'm sure everyone relates to this, but as you're growing and scaling, you run out of your own money. And if you want to keep building your portfolio, what do you need to do? You need other people's money. You need to grow a team, you need to raise capital, and you need to do deals together with other investors in your network. So I was hitting that point, and I had a lot of family, friends, past coworkers tell me like, yeah, Stella, we love what you're doing. We've been seeing your work, like count us in. We have 20K, 25K, smaller checks that they want to put in and invest with me. And I loved all of that. But in practice, I was like, how does all this work? And I ended up myself going through it manually, trying to find a lawyer. And they're so expensive. They take so much time. We were spending like months just even coordinating like how we would structure all this. And, lawyers are here to make money, right? They talk for a really long time. So was just stuck in the trenches of all of that. Once, I finally figured out how I was going to legally structure everything. Now I'm trying to coordinate, 50 of my friends giving me different checks amounts, putting all of that together. Everyone was telling me verbally, like, yes, count me in. And I actually had this really, really disastrous moment where just 2 days before closing, half my investors flaked on me. They didn't send me that wire. And I ended up losing that deal. Like, it just sucks so much for me. It sucked a lot for the other investors who did, want to fund it. And, even after all of that, once I actually did do a successful raise on my own, I was now, trying to handle everything back office, everything admin. Like I've never, done accounting with 50 investors. Like, how does that work? Now I have to bring on a CPA. I have to run all of those. I have to cut 50 investors a check every month to send them the profits we were earning. It was just a total mess. And for me, I'm in the game because I want to invest. I want to build my portfolio. I didn't get into the game to, be doing VA work and be dealing with lawyers, for months at a time, right? So that's really what sparked this inspiration, where I'm actually a software engineer by trade. That's what I did before I got into real estate. And I'm like, we need to bring technology. We need to create a product that can really just streamline the whole thing. So that's what gave us the idea about building Fractional, is really creating a one-stop shop that makes raising capital and running deals just stupid simple. That's what Fractional is about. We make it one click to start a project and start pooling in investors' funds instead of spending months, trying to set everything up. Compliance, it matters a ton for us, right? There's a lot of red tape. You need to do things right, or, you're at risk of being in a lot of trouble with the SEC, right? You're, a lot of monetary fines. You could lose your business. Your reputation is on the line. It is like a zero mistake.
Potential jail time?
Yes, definitely that, right? You definitely don't want to make the wrong moves there. And that was really important to us. We actually brought in the former senior counsel of the SEC as our legal advisor to make sure we're building a product that really tracks down, logs, and supports active participation and collaboration, and makes what we're building actually not a security, which is why, we're all about joint ventures and investment clubs. And then really just, putting everything back office with taxes, bookkeeping, K1s, profit distributions, letting us handle that with technology, abstracting it away from the actual operators so that they can focus on what's more important, which is actually investing and building relationships with their investors.
That's so amazing. I feel like, where the world is headed, right? It's, what do people want? They want convenience. They want simplicity, right? They want Uber. They want Uber Eats, right? They want, what is that massage? There's a massage app now. Touch, or what is?
I don't know.
Oh, but you see what I'm saying? So that's where society is headed. And, when I heard of what you have going on, anybody out there that is in the game of real estate, and again, real estate is one of those industries, right, where you can leverage better than most, right? And you can leverage through, other people's money, whether it's private capital, hard money lending, or raising capital from family or friends, right? Or, joint ventures of just people that want to get in, because we've been in the game of real estate now for a very long time. And, one thing I know to be true is everybody wants to do real estate. The dentist, the lawyer, the teacher, the police officer, the fireman, right? Everybody wants to do real estate, but nobody wants to be in real estate. Yeah. You get what I'm saying, right? In many cases, most people want to, especially white collar earners, folks like, doctors and lawyers, right? They want to invest their money. They want to put their money to work, right? But they don't have the time or the energy to get in the game of real estate, but they're looking to invest their money in real estate because of the stability that, real estate provides as a vehicle, right? As a financial vehicle, right? And think about what's going on with the stock market today, right? It's very volatile, right? There's so much volatility out there in a lot of different industries, but real estate, in my opinion, you don't get the crazy returns of some of the other investment vehicles that are out there, but it's safer than most, and it's more stable than most.
It always appreciates,
right? And here's another thing, right? When it comes to real estate, people are always going to need a place to live, no matter what's going on, right? And now with this platform that you're providing, I think you're solving, I don't want to say 100%, but it could be, right? You're solving so many of the challenges of bringing people together and raising capital and funding projects, whether it's a fix and flip deal or a multifamily deal, right? Because you have so many different options within your platform, like you were talking to me about, like an investors club, right?
Yeah.
Of that can have up to 100 people to be in compliance, and then the amount of capital that you can raise, there's really not a limit there. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Sky's the limit. And
Yeah.
we love the investor club model because it really supports so much collaboration, right? Like you talked about, people in your network that all want to get into real estate.
That's right.
Well, who do they have access to that's going to get them into the game? It's you, right? Like
Yeah.
they see you as the entry point to get into all these, really great deals that's going to, create them generational wealth and, build them a stable portfolio. So, you can just tell people, hey, I've been doing fix and flips out here in Phoenix, Arizona, as an example, right? Like this is my buy box. This is kind of my target for how much I want to buy. What's the after repair value? What's kind of the return profile we're getting? And then you just ask people around you, do you want to do this with me? Do you want to join my club? And, they'll say, yeah, count me in, right? And every person will throw in, 5K check, 10K check, 50K check, 100K check, right? Whatever it is they're comfortable in doing. And then all of a sudden, now you've got a club with, 100 people max, right? And you probably have millions of dollars in deployable capital with your club now of all these people in your network that want to do deals with you. And now all you need to do is just find the deals, which is what you're an expert in already,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
So you just find the deals, you bring it back to the club and you're like, hey, I found 123 Main Street. I think it really fits our investment criteria. Here's my underwriting. We can look at it together. Are we game or no game on moving forward? And likely because people trust you and they're here and they're going to look at the numbers with you, they're going to say, heck yeah, let's move forward, right? Like as long as you're not doing something completely out of the ballpark, like don't bring in a short-term rental in Austin when you said you were doing a fix and flip in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
But if it actually fits the criteria, people are going to be excited. They're going to move quickly because they know, right, that good deals don't wait for no one, right? So they're going to cast that vote in. The club is going to move forward and then boom, now you're just executing. Deal 1, deal 2, deal 3, and onwards.
I think we're undermining the convenience and the simplicity that your platform offers. And I was already thinking, right? Like I'm already thinking like my dentist of many, many years, right? She's always wanted to invest in real estate. I mean, think about it, right? Think about, first of all, you allow your community or your friends or your family to play real life Monopoly at this point. Yes?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that cool? Right? They get to play real life Monopoly. There's the projects. They're like, ooh, I like that. And they take a look at the terms and what it looks like. And they're like, okay, yeah, click. Right? And then your team of experts does all the work. Right? All I got to do is just bring projects and bring community together. Correct?
Exactly. Bingo.
I love that. Right? And so for me, it's like we're undermining how appealing this platform is in any community, right? Or to anybody out there that's doing projects already. Because think about it this way, right? Think about how extensive it is to have to sit there and explain what your fund is and what it's all about. And right, instead of like, you can literally say, hey, would you like to invest with me? Join my investment club. Right? Tracy, like
or join this project.
Dr. Tracy, my dentist, right? Hey, Dr. Tracy, you've always wanted to invest in real estate, right? Yeah, I've always wanted to invest in. Well, why don't we do this? Hey, here, join my community. Here's the app. I'll have a couple of different projects there that you and your husband can take a look at. See which one you want to be a part of and just click and let's get going. Isn't it that easy?
Yeah, it's that easy.
Think about what I just said, Sal. Instead of me having to sit there and explain, like now it's all there. It's visually all there and they're reading everything, all the terms and the description of every deal. And then they just get to choose.
Yeah.
Right. And then you also have what is like a voting system on some of the bigger projects. Yes. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, exactly. So what we've really learned is that a lot of operators, their buy box or their criteria, it doesn't change per deal, right? Like you have a set criteria that you're always looking for. So this is now a scalability solve, right?
Mhm.
Instead of raising capital, finding partners, doing it flip by flip, deal by deal, whatever it is, if your criteria never changes, why aren't you just shooting for the moon from day one, right?
Mhm.
That's what the club is about is, you are basically just telling people what your thesis is, and then everybody is jumping in on that thesis, forming a club around that very specific strategy. And then now you have millions of dollars where you can just find the deal that fits, and then people just vote to verify that, yes, this is what we talked about, let's move forward. And then the whole club can just deploy part of their capital towards buying that specific deal. So it's really about scaling instead of going at projects one at a time. If you already know what you're doing, if your standard doesn't change, then tell people about your criteria, show them case studies of what you've done in the past, right? So that people know that whatever is your criteria is actually achievable and it's realistic. And then boom, right? You go bigger, you get more investors in just one time. And then now you can, do 10 different individual projects just with that one club.
I love the transparency.
Let's talk about it. Because for me, I like to simplify things. And then this is for my own understanding. Let's say there's a fix and flipper.
Yeah.
Fix and flipper that has 2 projects going. And they need to fund it. They don't want to go to get a hard money lender. They want to raise capital for that for various of reasons. And let's say I am that fix and flipper. I have those 2 projects. One of them is 123 East Main Street, and the other one is 598 East Main Street. And I want to raise funds in there. Let's say I advertise my platform saying, hey, join my community. I have these 2 projects. If you ever want to invest in real estate, go to this link. What do they have to do? What does the investor or the backer have to do from that point on?
Yeah. So it's super simple. So we actually really love a one-to-many kind of relationship. So we would tell the leader or the operator who is, wanting to get their project funded, host a Zoom call. Invite, 50 people from your network to come to the Zoom call, and then you can tell them live what your opportunity is about, why you want to do this project, what do the numbers look like. And then while you're on the Zoom, you share your Fractional project link, which has your whole business plan and breakdown on that project. And then guess what? Now you have all the eyeballs. They got 1 hour to, decide on if they want to invest in the deal or not. And there's limited spots. People are going to feel FOMO. If it's a great deal, everybody's going to want to jump into that, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're creating a lot of momentum within your own community. And that project is live. It's super simple. Literally, people, they just go to your project link. We have this huge blue button on the right. They just click that, and then they type in how much they want to invest. They can type in like 25K, for example. And then literally, they just click, I agree, I pledge this amount, click, done.
Yeah.
Now their investment is locked in.
And they get returns on, so we've done deals before, and we raised capital for certain deals before, but we like to bring one person, no more than one, because if you bring 2 people, then you have to talk about splits, or you raise capital based on preferred rate, return rate. So can you do preferred return rate or a portion of the deal?
How creative, would you say how creative and compliant, right? Can you get when it comes to the terms on specific deals? Is that what you're asking, Sal?
Well, yes, correct. How creative can you be? Because as investors, Carlos and I, we've had deals that we flipped, and we wanted to bring some people into them, but to bring more than one person, it becomes very cumbersome. And what you want to do is you bring one person in. But if it's a bigger project, you want to bring more people in that. But then now you have to have administrative work, and you have to give different return. You give them either on the project itself, like after it sells, you get X amount, portions of the profits, or you get preferred interest rate every single month. Let's say if it's at 12% APR, and then you get checks every single month. How nimble is your platform, or do you guys even facilitate that?
That's a great question. So people can be as creative as they want, and it just really has to make sense for both them as an operator and for their investors, right?
Mhm.
Like as long as it financially makes sense and it's incentivizing for everyone, then they can structure it however they like on the platform. And great point on how traditionally people usually only bring on 1 or 2 partners because it's a lot of work. And that's actually what Fractional is about, is we make partnering with 50 investors feel just as easy and simple as if you were working with 1 investor.
Wow.
Because we're covering everything. We're going to automatically calculate how much each investor owns based off of how much money they contributed to your project.
That's amazing.
We automatically send them the profit distributions, to the bank account that they have connected on the platform. We're doing all the bookkeeping. We're filing the taxes for the LLC. We're creating all the K1s for the investors. You're not worrying about any of that stuff, right? Like you're just focused on your project. You're focused on communicating with your investors, telling them what's happening. And all that is within your private community page on Fractional too. So it's not even like you're sending 50 text messages or DMs to people. You just, make a post, right, in your Fractional community and then let us handle everything back office. And there's so many great ways to be creative here. Like, you can be creative with your equity. You're obviously bringing something to the table as the operator, right? Like you found the deal, maybe you can get like an acquisition fee, or you're, hiring and vetting the property managers, right? Like you maybe deserve a higher cut of the cash flow. Maybe you deserve a higher cut of, the appreciation with the sale of the profits, right? So all of that, workshop that into your underwriting, and then just be transparent. Tell your investors, and they will see the value you're bringing to the table, and they want to be a part of a team where they can really work with an amazing leader. So they're going to want to work with you and make sure you feel like you're compensated and doing a great investment together.
I feel like before you leave, right, like you should set our platform.
Yeah.
I really do, because my wheels are already spinning. It's like we've already partnered up with some people that we're doing flips with. Why not just, and by the way, these folks that we have already partnered up with, right? Imagine like once they have access to this platform, right? They're going to be constantly, it's almost gamified. They're going to be constantly checking for the next project.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, and it's going to maybe notify them, boom, new project available. And they're like, oh yeah. And they get to see what's going on. Right. So why not just put everything that we're doing into the platform in that community. Right. And by the way, anybody that's watching or listening to this, do me a huge favor. Down below, there is a link, which is allinnation.com/fractional, to hear more about what we got going on here, or what Stella has going on with Fractional. What I also love about Fractional is I love how the actual, like the user friendliness, right, of the actual platform, it almost gives you that like the school type of concept, right? Where I can post, there's a message board, I can drop a video there, right, with descriptions. Like there's just so many things that you can do on the actual platform to get your message across, or to communicate with your community, right?
Yep, exactly. Communication, collaboration, that is so key to what we're building. And that ends up creating so much excitement too. Like I love, Carlos, how you mentioned, like, yeah, people are going to be addicted to like trying to find out when the next deal is, right? And part of what, goes into that is projects being oversubscribed. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
People, they host a Zoom, they invite, their network to come on. And oftentimes it's like 30 minutes into the Zoom, boom, that deal is already oversubscribed. So people then know. Yeah, overfunded. Exactly. It's like you're raising, $500,000, and it's like 30 minutes in, you're already at $1 million. Like that really just sticks in people's heads. They're like, holy crap. Like I better act quick next time. I better be refreshing Carlos's community page all the time, because if I don't, I'm going to miss out on the next deal, and nobody wants to do that.
You know what's funny, by the way? That just happened with some of the projects that we had going on. Remember, I personally had to send out 3 messages. Say, hey, we got to move quicker. It was the Mesa project that we just did. The second project in Mesa that we're doing, right? And I had to send out 3 messages. It's like, hey, so sorry, this one's gone. Got to move faster on the next one. I had to send out that message 3 different times, right? Of people that wanted in on that deal. Well, guess what? Now we put, like I said, put all those people, anybody that's out there that's interested in like doing deals with us, investing with us, right? They should go on the platform. They should be on the platform. You know what I mean? Isn't it free for them to be on the platform anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Free
Right?
to sign up.
Friends, family, followers, right? People that are, dentists, doctors, your lawyer. I mean, our lawyers and, our network, right? They all want to do real estate. They all want to do real estate. Well, now it's very simple. It's as simple as me sending them the link for them to join. And then boom, your team does all the work. They do all the identification, verification, right? You do, you manage all the funds, right? You make sure everybody's in compliance, all the administrative work, all the accounting work. I mean, like I said, I will repeat this. All we have to do as principals or community leaders is just do what we do best.
Find a project.
Bring projects and people together, right?
You nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Talk to me about compliance, because I feel like that's anybody that's raising capital out there, right? Like that's always a very, very high concern for them. Compliance, right?
Yeah.
People want to be in business for a long time, not just for like, a short period of time. Like people want to be in business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And the way to stay in business is to stay compliant, right? Talk to me about compliance.
Absolutely. Well, we're here to stay in business for a long time. Compliance matters a ton to us. And, we know that you absolutely need to get it right in order to raise capital, pool capital, work with investors properly. Mm-hmm. So the way that we looked at it is, there's traditional models like syndications, funds, right? But those are securities. And they are securities because the operator, they're doing all the work. They call all the shots. They make all the decisions. And then for their investors, they're just throwing money in a black box and they have no idea what's going on, right? And obviously the SEC wants to make sure people are protected and their money is protected, right? Which is why they have all these regulations, for securities law and how, you have to go through all these things with a syndication and starting a fund for good reason, right? Like they're doing a good job, protecting people and their money.
Yep.
And what we're doing is we believe in community. We believe in collaboration. And that's the type of people we want to work with, where they actually truly care about educating investors in their network, making it collaborative, making it transparent in what kinds of decisions can be made in a real estate investment. So when you really open those doors and you make it a collaborative space for the investors, it no longer becomes just a passive investment. They actually become an active investor. They have a voice in how the club is going. And because they are active, what's happening on Fractional is not a security. We actually only support the joint venture or the investment club structure. And neither of those are securities because people actually have to participate. So we talked about voting before, right? That is active participation. It is you as the leader bringing in a deal that you think fits the criteria of the club. And you don't just get to decide that for yourself. Your club members have to look at the deal with you and then actually vote and say, yes, we approve. We think this is a good idea. We think it fits. And then the club together moves forward on that deal, right? So that active participation, it is so key. It is the most crucial part of compliance.
Wow.
And with active participation, there's always that trade-off where people think, oh, now I have to coordinate with all these investors and get their opinion. That sounds like a lot of work. Well, that's what Fractional is here to streamline is we want the best of both worlds. We want the active participation and we want to make that super easy. Yeah. So that's why in voting, it's not like you got to send 50 emails and follow up with people and get them to make a decision. It's you post a poll in your community. People will usually vote within an hour if you just provide all the materials for them to make a decision. And it's in their best incentive to make a decision quickly because they don't want to lose out on a great deal. Nobody does, right? So everybody's in the club, they're going to review the materials and then just click that one button. Yes, I agree. and you hit a quorum, you have that participation, and you're doing everything compliantly.
You know, that's one of my favorite, or one of my favorite parts, right? Or how would you say that? Not capacity, but you know, it's like abilities, right, of the platform, right? The transparency factor. I love how now. So now, because you know, right, as someone, you know, if anybody that's out there that's raising capital, right, they feel a lot of weight and a lot of pressure on their shoulders, right? Because there's an old saying out there, right? It's like you don't go to jail for losing your own money, right? You could go to jail for losing other people's money, right? If you're not in compliance and you're not doing it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like in many ways, right, the old traditional ways of raising capital, like you said, through either a syndication or a fund, and you know, all this legality that's involved, right? There's a lot of blind spots and there's a lot of uncertainty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? People don't get to see on a daily basis what they're doing, what they're getting into. They don't get to choose in some cases because, like you said, when you're doing it the old traditional way, right? When they give you an investment, right? When they provide capital for you or to you, they're just trusting that you're going to make the right decisions. Correct?
Yep.
Like, hey, here's $500,000 or $1 million. I'm gonna pray that you know what you're doing, right? I'm trusting you, right? And with this, there's just so much transparency right there for people to pick and choose where they want to participate.
Yeah.
Correct?
Absolutely. It's also a mindset thing. You know, what we want people to do is have their investors truly feel like they are on the same side of the table, they are on the same team as their leaders, as opposed to, hey, I'm just giving you the money, you better make this work for me. If it doesn't work, I am so mad at you and I am, you know, sending you to the absolute trenches, right? Like that is how the traditional model has worked. That is what we're not here for that. We want people to feel like they're actually in this together. And I think that kind of mindset is becoming more and more popular, right? Like there is all this momentum about how we want to take things in our own hands. We want Main Street instead of Wall Street, right? Joint venture investment club, that is Main Street behavior, right? It is everyone doing a deal together, actually being invested in the success of a deal together, and also figuring out the good, bad, and ugly together, right? Like if we were real partners, we're gonna, you know, even if things don't go as planned, that's fine. We know that we will fight through it together and make things happen, right? Like that kind of mindset is already so different. And I think it ultimately just leads to a more successful investment because, you know, it's like High School Musical, right? Where we're all in this together to make dreams happen.
You ever heard of a terminology called group economics? There's a resemblance here.
Yep.
Right? You ever heard of group economics when kind of, you know, you get a good amount of people to pitch in towards a financial goal, right? And I do believe that there is a lot of compliance that needs to be followed there, right? But there's a resemblance here where it's almost, you know, technically it's you know, it's like community economics, you know, like we're all picking and choosing, you know, where we're going to invest our money and, you know, what we want our preferred return to be, you know, it's almost like it's not a me thing, it's a we thing, you know, right?
Exactly.
So I love that. Now I do want to use the rest of this episode to dive into Fractional, right? Like from what I've seen, there's a lot of people that believe in Fractional and believe in what you guys are doing at Fractional, right? You have backing. I don't know if it's Wall Street backing, but you have some pretty good, credible backing behind this platform or this project. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes. So we have raised over $20 million in funding
Boom.
from a lot of world-class investors. So our latest round was led by Fifth Wall. They are the largest venture capitalists in real estate.
Wow.
So, you know, definitely means so much to, you know, have their support. We also have Y Combinator as one of our investors as well. They are pretty much the #1 accelerator worldwide. They, created and backed companies like Airbnb, like DoorDash, right? Like all these phenomenal businesses, they came out of Y Combinator. So we're definitely very honored and humbled to be a part of that community as well.
Mhm.
And then also some really cool names like Will Smith and Kevin Durant, which is always really fun to talk about.
That's
They believe in the
amazing.
we thing. So,
Yeah.
they want to make we and community happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, I mean, I can't even begin to ask, how did you, right? How did you accomplish all this backing in such a short time? Like you must have had a hell of a pitch deck, right? Like, what did they see? Did they see the potential of what this will be? Is that how you managed to get all this support?
Yes, most definitely. They 100% believe in the vision. And that's because we have the traction, we have the product, and we have all the excitement to prove that.
Yeah.
So every time we've pitched to investors, we've shown them how the company works. We've shown them all the different kinds of creative projects people have been able to actually do because of the platform and just how simple
Yeah.
that we've made it. So
Yeah.
they love that. They love the community element. And, we started out with real estate because there's obviously such a dire problem and need here, right?
Absolutely.
That is so obvious, but we're not stopping here.
No,
Yeah.
you're gonna be able, Sal, this because we've been, we technically have been in the private equity space
Yeah.
since 2019 when we acquired our first ever acquisition, which was a medical company,
Yeah.
right? And I can already see this type of platform, transitioning and servicing the private equity space
Yeah.
also.
Somebody can invest into buying a business,
Yeah.
a new business
Exactly.
that somebody's buying, and they
I-
just
Yeah, I can think of like my buddy Kyle Mallion, right? I mean, he has a huge a huge community of private equity,
yeah, M&A.
business buyers, right? Mergers and acquisitions. He has a huge community. They're constantly, buying businesses, right? A lot of blue collar businesses. I can already see this platform servicing a guy like my buddy Carl Allen, who's also in the private equity space, and he's, they call him the $1 billion deal maker. I mean, he has like a crazy, gigantic community of deal makers that, are looking to invest money into businesses. So you're right. It's not just a real estate servicing platform. At some point, you're going to be servicing other industries, right?
100%. That is the grand vision that we have, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone should be able to build a team, pull capital, run a project for whatever business plan or vision that they have.
Yeah.
So I think businesses is definitely the next immediate unlock. We already have so many people asking us all the time, like, hey, I want to buy a laundromat with my community. I want to, do a landscaping company. How does that work? Let's use Fractional, right? So that's, what we're getting into now, which I'm also super excited about. And really, I think, people have dreams, right? Like they're here in America to, really pursue and make their dreams come true, and doing it with a community who like back your belief. That is so, so empowering. And we want to support, helping those visions come true so that they can focus on actually execution and let us just abstract away all the complexities.
Mm. Yeah. This is kind of a no-brainer. I feel like your biggest challenge right now is just like more exposure, getting in front of people that need this service. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Right.
Because I personally, we've been wanting to raise funds for so long, like I mentioned earlier, and we only do it per project base, or for that one project, we want one person. We don't even like to have two people. Having
Yeah.
two people, administrative nightmare and all that, and financial nightmare that you have to set. Part of the administrative nightmare. And what you're saying is that with this, now you're unlocking something new. You're unlocking something that I can use this for anything else that we're aspiring to do, but whether by a business, do a new project, do a new development project, or renovate a project and stabilize it until you sell it. The sky is the limit, because now there is a tool that allows you to do that. And versus the other way around, Carlos and I would be talking about, hey, we should do this, we should do that. The first thing we think about, or at least me as an operator, I'm like, oh my God, I have to hire this employee, I have to do this, I have to make sure that I expand on our finance department, our admin department, because now I have 50 people or 100 people that I have to send checks every month to. I have to make sure that we file all the compliances by the end of the year for tax reasons. We have to make sure that if we were to start a fund, which then you have to hire a lawyer. Then you have to go back and forth with that lawyer based on those on the tedious information or tedious what would you call it?
Compliance?
Well, not compliance, like the tedious stuff that you want to add into that contract, and it has to be drafted within a lawyer.
Yeah.
And going back and forth is an nightmare. And I know this because we've interviewed a few lawyers for this.
Yeah.
And sometimes these lawyers are, $400, $500, $600 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And next thing, and they, respectfully, even though we love our lawyers out there, they know how to stay on the phone.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Or the Zoom.
But
right?
That's the reason why I don't want to, we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it would stop the project. It would almost kill the momentum of the project that we want to do. Now you're saying that don't even think about this. Use this platform. Don't even think about this and worry about this. Don't even worry. Just bring the stuff that you're excited to bring in from the first place, and the rest is resolved. So to me, it's like unlocking that the sky's the limit. Don't worry about any limitations. Focus on what you're good at, and the rest is handled.
Exactly. I mean, Sal, even just looking at you describe all of that, like when you first said, oh, we have this vision, like I could see the light in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started listing the 50 things that like are going in your head about like how this would all work and the logistics and the admin. And you just look like,
Oh, this is for me, by the way. I just had some, like I had an aha moment as you guys, you were talking back and forth.
Yeah.
I've had a few
we've had these talks for a while. This year, we actually talked about that. We want to do something big. We want to do a new development, a multifamily of sort. And, half of the battle was the other stuff that I don't want to do.
Exactly.
And I want to focus only on
the
this
structure.
I don't want to do that. And I'm like dreading it.
You provide an infrastructure already. That's what you do. You literally, right? Like or Fractional provides an infrastructure with everything. I'm thinking of like, even let's just take the small projects, the small fix and flips that we're doing now, right? What does our asset manager have to do? He has to manage the project and the general contractors. Okay, that's already, that's right. He already has his hands full there, but then he also has to manage the partners and the funds, and the title companies, and the like. There's so many things. Like imagine now he just has to manage the platform, and right, he has to manage the project and the platform, and then we're good, right? So, I love the solutions. The solution that you're providing. Not only for the real estate side of things, but in the future, God willing, like you said, just the general business side of things. That's something else that right now there's a huge transition of baby boomers that are selling off their businesses and, to a bunch of acquisition folks out there. Right. And, this could be a very good tool for a lot of these communities out there, because believe it or not, just like there's a bunch of real estate communities, there's a bunch of mergers and acquisition communities out there. I've been running into so many of them, right? And this is a platform that could be very useful for them, right?
Yeah.
So how can people get a hold of you specifically, Stella Han?
Well, I am always on Fractional, so definitely create a Fractional account. You'll see me there. You can send me a message. You can find me on social media as well. My Instagram handle is Hella Stella, keeping it California for everyone here.
Got it.
Yeah, but
what is, how do you HELLASTELLAH? Easy.
Yep.
Got it. Hella Stella.
Hella Stella.
Okay. And what are some big plans that you have for Fractional this year?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we're all about growth right now. I think we've really built something that's so amazing. It's really just getting it in front of more people because it's such a no-brainer. I feel like every time we talk about this, the moment people hear about it, they're like, yes, it's an immediate yes, because it can just really abstract away so much of the complexities that people don't want to deal with so that they can focus on what's most important and what they're best at. So it is 100% growth. We want to really, take this to the next level with the business, help and empower more people, and then, expand into a new vertical like business acquisition.
I love it. I love how you're all in on Fractional. So, anyway, thank you so much for joining us today, right? I feel like this was very informative and valuable for anybody out there that, is listening to this show and is interested in raising capital and funding projects, right? I can't think of a better platform at this moment. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have not subscribed to the show, please do so. And we'd love to see the comments and the likes down below. We'll catch you next week.